Hi guys, and thank you for joining me on the Citadel. I am bringing you today the first game in our club tournament, which was hosted just after the release of the pack containing First Snow of Winter, but before Wolves of the North were released. On the left is Rebecca Gillard playing Stark Fealty, and on the right is Ben Ebrahim playing Lannister, Lords of the Crossing. Now, before we get into this game, I just want to give you a quick disclaimer about it. Rebecca on the left hadn't played Thrones for a little while because her and her partner Richard, who you will have seen on quite a lot of our previous videos, had been in Japan. And on the right, we've got Ben, who doesn't play Thrones a huge amount, however tends to be a very good player, very kind of tactical, kind of good view of the meta, and keeps himself tuned in with what's going on. So, which is why he's brought Lanny Lords of the Crossing. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what this series is while the players get their setup sorted. What we're doing is recording a whole bunch of casual games that we play at the club and at the shop, and I'll be doing some commentary over them. I'm not going to focus on play mistakes, but I will try and look at tactical decisions, kind of what sort of plays the players should be making, and the correct line of play from certain points of view. Hopefully focusing on plot choice and kind of challenge order and that sort of thing. So this matchup, just in general, I'm always going to favour the Lanny Lord of the Crossing, just because First Snow had just been released. And Stark, before the big box was released, struggled with that kind of mid and high end characters. Yes, they had them. They had Catelyn, one of my favourite characters in the game, but they didn't have that plethora of kind of effective characters, and also struggle with the Jumping Lions, which is the Lanny build that I think Ben is playing. So players are just deciding on their setup. One of the things I do like about Stark Fealty is it often sets up quite well because of those numbers of low-cost characters. But Rebecca looking like she's only got a 3-card setup, as to Ben's 2-card setup. So let's see what it is. Tyrion and Pycelle versus Summer with a Dupe and a King's Road. Surely not. As a Stark player, I would always mulligan that hand, because obviously you want that Summer coming to play effect with bringing that character back. The Lannister setup's quite nice. Tyrion gives you kind of that economy to fuel your events, which kind of fuel your early game until you can get yourself set up. But setups go for both players. I don't think either of them are a particularly dominating position. Obviously Tyrion is better and the Lannister player is in a good position, but Rebecca has got the economy card down. Ben playing a calm over Westeros, just let himself get set up. Obviously doesn't want to lose any of the characters he's got on the board at the minute, and Rebecca wants to go and look for obviously an impactful character to try and get that board dominance with that King's Road on the board. So obviously this was before the Stark box, which does mean that you're relatively limited in what you can do with Stark. Yes, you've still got kind of some nice attachments and you can go for that kind of aggro rush, but you're kind of limited in the alleys of attack. I will expect to see some direwolves because the direwolf package isn't yet kind of fully fleshed out. The Kennel Master had just been released, so probably going to take advantage of that, along with the Wardens of the North plot. And I'm going to expect to see quite a lot of military aggro. Rebecca with her summons getting Rob, and I know she's a massive fan of Rob, as I have become recently, especially with Grey Wind and being able to stand all your characters if you need to by eating one of your own chunks. However, I do think, as I said before, Stark is going to struggle in this matchup, but we'll just have to see if she can put the pressure on and kind of maybe wipe Ben's board early on to make it hard for him to play more characters, and because obviously his characters are so expensive on average that once your board becomes wiped as a Lanny player, and without that economy advantage from Tywin, you end up in a difficult situation where it's hard to marshal multiple characters to really come back from having that board wipe. But we'll see if Rebecca's able to do that with this deck. We can already see that Ben has got a Hear Me Roar in his hand. Like many people, when I first saw Hear Me Roar, I just wasn't a fan. But this deck has really proven its worth and proven its consistency. I am a Lanny player. I have played Lanny in the past. I enjoyed the Lanny Rose build that was going around previously, and actually myself played with a few versions of it. I went Varys heavy quite early on with duplicates and using bodyguards and various things, but then also played a version which relied more heavily on Jaime and the Knight of Flowers, and then brought in Cersei and played Lady Sansa's Rose, and then kind of eventually it evolved into a hand destruction deck and went back towards Varys, using the Cersei and Wardens of the West to wipe their hand out and then wiping the board with Varys and coming back that way. So I had quite a bit of experience with Lannister in general and kind of the different builds that you can get from them. At the minute, we are at the club playing in a league, and this league we've all been randomly assigned a house, and every week within the league you have to play a different match against your opponent, and you know what main house they're going to have, but you can use any banner, but you can only use it once. So I've been assigned Greyjoy for that, so I haven't played Lanny in quite a while, so haven't got a chance to play this Lords of the Crossing build. So, Rebecca choosing not to marshal Rob, thinking obviously she needs to get herself set up a bit more and get a few smaller characters on the board. And Arya with a dupe, that's very nice. So she's obviously got that claim there, and then still be able to have that military icon if she needs it. Probably saving Rob in her hand until she can play a bigger economy plot. I'm not sure how I feel about using that King's Road early on. Often I find myself wanting to hold on to those King's Road until I maybe kind of get my hand a bit choked full with some more expensive characters and need to play them out, or waiting for that kind of impactful turn. However, this has meant that Rebecca has managed to play ice on Arya, which, because Ben doesn't have any military icons, she's obviously thinking, well, there's no military icons, I'll be able to stealth past and use Arya to kill Tyrion. However, having seen this Lannister deck play a few times before, I can tell you that there are probably some tricks in his hand, especially with Tyrion to fund them. He's going to probably Hear Me Roar to bring out a mountain or something to prevent that ice coming off. So Ben just pointing out that there was a reduced strength for that because of his Lords of the Crossing, which I don't think Rebecca was massively aware of at the time. Ben getting the unopposed power and getting that insight draw. I think that the benefit of Pycelle early on does mean that while the power challenge is devalued because you want to be using kind of different characters for your intrigue, maybe Cersei, maybe Tyrion, it does mean you're still getting benefits. So Ben is going to Hear Me Roar early on, so I'm not sure about... Oh, we've seen another one in his hand, so I understand this. Okay, so he's Heard Me Roar so that he can potentially get off his 3 challenges, but Rebecca has cancelled it. Now Ben has to decide whether he wants to get off his 3 challenges but leave himself open against ice, or whether he's going to hold that Hear Me Roar back and potentially use it on the defense to prevent Arya getting off the military. So tactically speaking, I think this is a key point for Ben quite early on, and I think he's probably going to play conservative, which I think is the right choice. He's going to wait until after Arya's stealthed when Rebecca attacks back. I like that hand's judgment for Rebecca. It prevents Ben kind of getting off those early challenges and getting that early power creep that sometimes against Lannister is hard to get back from, because if they can rush in the early game, by the time you get to the mid and the late game, they've often set up their big characters and they're not too worried. She's going to do a military challenge with A Winter Is Coming. To increase the claim. So we could actually see that board wipe that we were talking about earlier. Ben obviously not doing the injury challenge meant that he then didn't have the gold on his plot card to be able to play the second Hear Me Roar. So that's the reason why doing an injury challenge for Tyrion might have been a good idea. Might have emptied that Winter is Coming out of Rebecca's hand. Which means she also... I'm wondering why she used the ice. Oh, maybe she used ice and it wasn't Winter is Coming. I'm sorry for that. So she obviously used ice to kill the Tyrion, and then the claim was Pycelle. So she has wiped that board. And Ben, because he didn't initiate that intrigue challenge, with Tyrion, wasn't able to use that second Hear Me Roar that we've seen in his hand. So Ben is sat there staring at Trading with the Mentoshi, thinking, I have to have an impactful plot now to be able to get enough characters back on the board to get me back in this game, because otherwise Rebecca could really run away with it quite early on if he can't get enough characters on the board to apply that pressure. Rebecca's there thinking, okay, he's going to want to get more characters on the board. I'm going to play a 2-claim plot. Now, Stark is one of the few houses where sneak attack can be alright. I'm not a big fan of sneak attack in general. However, in this particular position, where you are going heavy on the aggro and not on the first turn, I do quite like sneak. I think sneak on the first turn is a very dangerous play, especially as while Climb Over Westeros might not be as common a play now, first turn, it is still out there quite a lot. So sneak attack can be quite dangerous. I like it most as a closer in a powered rush deck where you only want to do that one power challenge, but it does severely limit you. But in this board position where Rebecca is in command and she's thinking that Ben might not necessarily be able to get enough characters down on the board to effectively recover, applying that pressure with a sneak attack is kind of efficient. Chosen to go first, obviously hoping to wipe his board before he can get any challenges off. Being able to get that Rob out because of her 2 Hearts, 2 Braves, and her fealty reduction is very nice as well, because that leaves her with enough gold to be able to get down another character. Oh, so we've got a Rattleshirts Raiders thinking to control his attachments. Don't often see, and I'm not sure how I feel about Rattleshirts Raiders in Stark. I think you're quite heavy on the military icons anyway, especially your more efficient characters. Yes, it gives you some attachment control, but I probably would have held it back personally, just because Lanny are so attachment light aside from Widow's Wear, really. There are some builds that run paid offs, but very often are either Lanny Fealty, no agenda, maybe Lanny Baratheon or Baratheon Lanny. Ben getting 2 characters out with a duped Jaime and a brothel madam, so he is hopefully, unless Rebecca has any other tricks, going to be able to get through this round with a Jaime left on the board if she does a 2-claim military. I suppose her thinking is with the Rattleshirts Raider that she needs enough military so that no matter what Ben does, she's got enough military icons and enough military strength to be able to get through that challenge. Ben's got 2 gold left on his house card, and we just saw a burned men in his hand, so he's obviously thinking there's no point marshalling them now, I can always drop them in later. And then he's thinking he can use the brothel madam and the burned men for claim, probably to leave himself with a Duke Jaime, get himself back into the game a bit more. The difficulty there is you're then running the risk of Rebecca playing March to the Wall. In any heavy aggro, Stark deck is probably playing that Marched, just because when you're able to whittle down their boards, there's only that one big character left. Marched is so valuable in that situation. So, going back to this series of videos that we're going to be doing, these first 3 from this tournament were filmed a little while ago, obviously before Walls of the North, and I've been doing them as kind of testers to get the audio down, get myself a bank of videos, and then hopefully what we'll be doing is we'll bring you quite current. Ooh, very nice. current videos with up-to-date cards, and I'll be trying to get them up to you as quickly as possible. I'll be aiming for one a week on a regular release schedule, and I will let you know more about the release schedule when I post this video. So Ben did quite an interesting play there, played Hear Me Roar to get Tywin out. Obviously Tywin will be discarded at the end of the phase, but this has meant that Ben is able to defend the military challenge, which really kind of screws with Rebecca there, which is quite nice. However, Tywin, is because he's such a key part of these Lannister builds, I'm not sure how I feel about it. I suppose when you can't marshal him, preventing him, using him to get yourself back into the game is quite efficient. However, it does mean that you've lost that card and you have lost Tywin. So it's a difficult play, but I think Ben made the right choice, especially when he was then able to return with a brothel madam and Tears of Lys, Rebecca's Robert. Now that is a play that is going to allow him hopefully to get back into the game, and I think that's what this Lanny jumper deck really enables. It enables you to come back and by playing those big effective characters even when you don't have a lot of gold, and allowing you to kind of screw with your opponent's challenges, which is exactly what we've seen here. So Ben, again, looking at his hand, has emptied out his hand a bit because he has played kind of quite a few events now and had played out quite more characters, but if he can kind of keep his draw going by winning those intrigue challenges, I think he'll be able to recover quite well from this. He's obviously thinking about whether he wants to do a military challenge or anything, but he's passed on it because obviously he's only got Jamie, and Rebecca would be able to defend with Robert and someone else. And this way, Ben wins dominance. At least you should have. Oh no, Rebecca has Arya and the Rattleshirt's Wader, which obviously outpowers Jamie. So Rebecca wins dominance. She's got 2 power to 1 going into the third round. Obviously this is a much slower game. It's going to take quite a bit longer than the next 2 in this series, and I thought this is actually quite nice because it gives us a chance to kind of talk a bit more about what we're going to be doing and kind of get to know me as a player a bit more, which I'll be going into later in this video. Our next 2 games in this series are relatively short. Ben playing Calling the Banners, another kind of higher plot card. I suppose it's probably one of the few other higher plot cards he's got, and playing it to try and push that board presence again. Rebecca playing another sneak attack. Plot deck wise, sorry Rebecca, I'm not a fan. I know it's high gold, I know it's high initiative, but it's so limiting that I prefer a Winds of Winter or something. I imagine Rebecca's thinking is that she needs that gold now to play out some more characters to be able to get around whatever Ben does this turn. But it has meant that she can go first. Oh, and she can get Caitlin on the board, which is very nice. Obviously, I'm doing the commentary for this video kind of quite a while after these games were filmed, but I recently played Stark since the box, using the Blackfish, and I got out Caitlin, the Blackfish, in Syria. Caitlin in 3 challenges with stealth is insane. That board state is so difficult to contend with and is very, very nice. But anyway, back to the game. Ben is now marshalling and he's got Cersei out. A duped Cersei as well. So he's been able to come back from having his board wiped very nicely, and I think that stuffing that military challenge in the last turn really helped him to get back into this game. However, he does now only have 2 cards in his hand, so he's down on his tricks. Tywin's in his discard pile, and Rebecca is going to be able to stealth past Jamie with her Arya, and maybe get this 2 claim off. However, the 2 claim is going to be much less impactful now because Ben has got those dupes on those key characters and got the brothel madam. Rebecca obviously just doing a military challenge with Arya, stealthing past Jamie, getting it unopposed. and getting off that 2 claim, leaving herself with enough of a board standing that she can defend against the intrigue challenge with Caitlyn, which means that she'll only have to deal with a single claim instead of that dual claim for Cersei, which is just another reason why that Caitlyn is so amazing. I personally can't bring myself to play the new Caitlyn. I know you build around her and she's good in Power Rush, but that core set Caitlyn is just so efficient. I just can't bring myself to play her. Ben obviously still wanting to win the Intrigue Challenge, so using the Brothel Madam and Cersei, meaning that he will win it against Caitlyn, but not able to get that dual claim off. Rebecca just talking to Ben, checking whether Caitlyn does block that dual claim or not. But because it's a bold-faced reaction to applying claim, it obviously is blocked. Rebecca showing the 2 cards in her hand, both very nice events, especially getting rid of that Winter is Coming is quite nice. Brothel Madam obviously on the board, meaning she had to pay to get that challenge off. However, I'm wondering what Ben killed for her military claim. Is his military claim? Doesn't seem like he actually applied it. Unless I'm completely unaware of how he would be able to get round it. So I think this mistake of not applying that military claim has significantly hampered Rebecca's chance of winning this game. But she did a power challenge. Looking at the power totals on the board, she obviously did a power challenge for the her 2 claim sneak attack, thinking, okay, I need to control his power and push through to the finish line. I'm not sure if that's the right call. Managing to get maybe a dupe of Cersei and get rid of the Brothel Madam could have been impactful. But I suppose knowing that she didn't have the goal to play the Winter is Coming to make it 3 claim does put her in a position whereby the power is maybe slightly more efficient at this point in time. I don't think there's necessarily a right call in that situation, at least in my view. But wow, Rebecca has now got a Winter's Winter. This is a really high claim aggro style deck. She just wants to smash your face in with absolutely no subtlety to it. So I suppose her thinking with the power is that she can kill more things this turn. Current board state. I think the Lannister player is in a relatively good board state. He's still got that Duke Jaime, who is quite efficient. He's still got Cersei. However, it does leave him in a difficult position. He's played First Snow, which I think is a really good call because it returns Summer, Arya and Sansa to Rebecca's hand. Arya's obviously got the dupe, so she can be saved. So she'll still have Arya with a military icon because of that extra dupe on her. However, Summer, I would personally return Summer to my hand so that I get that efficiency of replaying her and maybe replaying a character, despite having the dupe on her. Obviously, Sansa is gonna come back to her hand. So as start players go, I don't think that First Snow is going to hurt her as much as it could hurt her. Especially if she didn't have that extra dupe on Arya, you're then left with that kind of difficult decision. Do I leave her with just a stealth power, or do I bring her back to my hand so I can replay her and then get the dupe on her again and get that military icon back? Having that extra dupe on her really removes a kind of difficult decision point. Ben's not too worried, however, because his only character is the Brothel Madam. What this does mean, though, is that he is left facing a dual claim military with only 2 duped characters. So at the end of this turn, he's going to have, well, assuming Rebecca gets through that military challenge, which is going to with Arya, he is going to have just a Jaime and a Cersei. And if Rebecca isn't, having seen this plot deck so far with all this high claim, if she isn't winning much to all, I'll be extremely surprised. So in theory, Ben could be entering the next round just with Jaime on the board again. putting him in a very difficult position. Ben is playing a military challenge with Jamie, and Rebecca is thinking about whether she wants to defend it and how much by. Personally, I think in this situation, you could leave it go unopposed, let him get a bit more power in his house. He'd have 2 power in his house that way, and you would be able to then steal it back with your dual claim. But she's choosing to defend it with the Rattleshirts Raiders, and then kill them off as well. I think that's the right call. In this matchup, that Rattleshirts Raider is not going to be particularly efficient. Brought it back because obviously she's jumped ahead to claim. Ben maybe has a reaction. I'm not sure what that reaction would be, considering it's a 5-3 with a 2 strength difference. But Ben is realising that obviously because of the strength difference he can't do that. He was obviously hoping that she would let it go unopposed, so obviously in that situation not letting it go unopposed was definitely the right call to prevent that put to the sword. Obviously Jamie gets the renowned, but Rebecca is still with her 3 characters in a relatively good position. Then doing an intrigue challenge with Jamie. I suppose Ben's thinking is that Cersei's going to be blocked by... oh, very nice. Rebecca's thinking was... Ben's thinking was obviously that Cersei would be blocked by Catelyn anyway, so wouldn't get the dual claim. But Rebecca was able to kneel a direwolf and use Lukewarm Rain to remove a dupe off Jamie. Now as Ben, you're in a relatively dire situation where you're facing a dual claim military and you've got gonna lose Jamie, gonna lose Cersei. The thing I suppose we're hoping is that that gold on his plot card is gonna be to drop in a Chud or something else that he can kill so he won't lose Jamie. He obviously getting off his 3rd challenge with Cersei because he was able to do the military intrigue with Jamie and the power with Cersei, which is quite nice. So it's a good play there, meaning he gets his power, he gets unopposed, and he gets power for Lords of the Crossing. So forcing through those 3 challenges is very important. Rebecca then left only with 1 character standing, which is why I'm less sure about defending that challenge earlier, but this means that Ben was able to jump the Hound in and win the military challenge and continue to just about pull through and just about survive, which was a nice play. He is hanging in there by the just his fingertips at the minute. He is now maybe getting into a position where he's kind of whittled Rebecca's board down a bit. She's got rid of been able to get rid of Rob and got rid of the Rattleshirts Raiders. Her board is looking a bit smaller, and he is hopefully getting himself into a position where he can play out the Hound and start to apply pressure back to her. And I think this is kind of one of those tipping points of the game, which I'll talk about more in future episodes. Being able to be in the game and see these tipping points is quite key. And as I predicted, there's that march to the wall. Rebecca probably going to march to Summer, and Ben in an awkward position where he's got to decide whether he keeps Jamie, the kind of maybe slightly more impactful character at the minute, to defend against his military challenges, or whether he loses a dupe to Cersei. I think this is a really difficult decision. Ben playing I'm pretty sure it's called Rebuilding, where he gets to shuffle back 3 events into his deck, which is very nice, because that allows him to kind of put those Hear Me Roars back into play and kind of allows him to a few more tricks, get them back soon. You often only see that in Targaryen with Crown of Gold and Dracarys, but I think in this kind of crossing deck it may be a good call. So I think this next round is going to be really key. We're still only on 6 power to 4, but I think Rebecca can start to feel the pressure of this Lanny crossing deck. Ben deciding to get rid of Jamie, because obviously that dupe is so important while he's trying to recover from all this military pressure, but I think what we're finding is Rebecca is starting to peter out of pressure because she's played 3 2-claim plots now, and she's probably mostly got economy left. Playing that Bran, which is very nice right now, I think that's a really good card to have drawn into. Ben has just shuffled back those key events that he wants, and getting Bran on the table might be able to stop Ben playing some really impactful events when he really needs them. Obviously, we can see that he's got a I never bet against my family in his hand, and it's the real big decision point will be, what events does Rebecca cancel? Quite interesting to see that she's playing Hand's Judgment and Bran. You don't often see them in the same deck, but in this matchup I can see the reasoning behind it. You definitely have enough events that you want to cancel when you're playing against Lords of the Crossing. So what we were doing to this mini tournament we were doing, it was just 3 rounds of Swiss. So there'll be 3 videos in the series. And what we were doing was just trying to get ourselves ready for the Store Championship. We played this on the Tuesday, and our Store Championships was on the Saturday. First Snow was just been released, and it was going to be legal for the tournament. So wanted to get in as much practice as possible. We brought our decks that we were hoping to play at the event and kind of see how it goes. Get ourselves used to these new cards, especially for Rebecca, who hadn't played for a little while. I don't think Ben made it to our Store Championships because he's often very busy at the weekend, and I would have to say that if he did, I would make him put his cards in a sleeve, because I always find that quite painful. He always says, "Oh, I've not got any time to put my cards into a sleeve. I can't be bothered." But personally, I just can't bear not to protect my cards like that. Rebecca reading I Never Bet Against My Family, kind of thinking, why the hell is he playing that? I suppose if you've been out of the meta for a little while, it's an odd one to see. Ben obviously playing it, trying to tempt out that Bran cancel, and Rebecca's gone, no, it's too much of a gamble, I'm not going to cancel it, I'll save it for something more impactful, like another Tears or a Put to the Sword. Oh, and Ben hits. He hits a mountain, and that's definitely a big stick to hit. Now this really empowers him for this turn, and I think if he can force through that challenge with that much gold in his pot, he might have a Put to the Sword in his hand, and if he can get that through, he can really apply pressure to Rebecca now, and this could put her in a dangerous position. So be good to see what happens. And as I was talking about this, as you can see, that I never bet against my family. It is this turning point in the game where Ben is, while temporary with I never bet against my family, he is managing to put himself in that position where he can force that tipping point in the game. He's whittled away at Rebecca's hand a little bit. It's a later game, killed off a few key impactful characters. If he can get off a big challenge this turn, we might really see the Rebecca, the start player, suffering in future rounds. So while they're thinking about how to do their challenges this turn, I thought I'd tell you a little bit more about me. I've always played board games, enjoyed LCGs and various card games. I played 1.0 when I was living down in Canterbury a bit, just with friends, quite casually. Never had all the cards or anything, but played with the core set and a few expansions and loved the game. Moved back to Northampton, to the local area, and unfortunately was confronted with a situation where no one played first edition. And because it was such an established game, I knew it would be difficult to build up my own meta, so kind of put the get cards to the side and went, okay, I admit defeat. And I went and played sacrilegious word for me. I went and played Netrunner for a while. Enjoyed the game. It's very different. It's got some good story points, but does put you in a position whereby as soon as the Game of Thrones 2.0 was announced, that's all I could think about, and that is what I've done ever since. So we had quite an impactful turn there. Ben was able to drop in the Hound to defend the challenge, effectively neutering Arya, and Rebecca has now knelt out our board, meaning that Ben will be able to get his 3 challenges off in return if he so wants with his cards. So when 2.0 was announced, I was definitely that person in our local kind of wargaming and card gaming group that just absolutely kind of said to everyone, this is an amazing game, this is the only game that matters, this is what you want to be playing. So I managed to hype it up enough that when it released, we got quite a few people in, got a really good kind of core group of people, Rebecca and her partner Richard being 2 of the people, and ever since then it's just slowly grown. We had a gameplay night recently where we got 12 people playing Thrones all at once as part of our league, which went really, really well. For a group that started off mostly for war games and for War Machine and miniature games, getting that many people playing a single card game was quite impressive. So Ben now swinging back with getting that dead rob from Rebecca's hand. From the brothel madam, hoping just to make sure that she doesn't have anything dangerous in her hand. And he's going to get quite a few unopposed challenges, while Rebecca might be on 9 power now. At the end of this round it might look a little bit different. Ben kicking himself because he forgot his Lannister trigger, and doing a power challenge with Cersei. Obviously, because he dropped in the Hound earlier, he didn't have the money left to play the Put to the Sword, but Rebecca managed to pull it out of his hand anyway with that Caitlyn. So that Caitlyn intrigue challenge really saved her there, preventing her from losing 2 characters off the challenge. She claimed the Arya dupe, and if Ben had been able to play that Put to the Sword, I'm assuming he probably would have tried to kill Caitlyn, because she's really screwing with his plans a bit. Getting later in the game, and Rebecca is, obviously because she's played all her 2 claim plots, left playing her noble cause with no hand, so just playing it and hoping for the best. Ben has recognised he's on that tipping point, has managed to play that Winds of Winter to really try and force through that advantage now and push towards the finish line. While Rebecca might be on 9 power to Ben's 5, I think he's effectively kind of wrangled himself into a position whereby he can really apply that pressure. If he can get out a military icon this turn and get through a military challenge as well, I think he's going to really hammer that home. I do think what this game really highlights is if that Jumping Lions doesn't get those kind of renowned characters on the board early on, you do end up struggling for those power icons. So you do sometimes struggle to get through those to win quick enough. So you can struggle against rush decks. But what we have seen is him kind of pull himself out of some relatively difficult holes. I think if he had managed to be able to play that Tywin early on and get that on the board, get that renown, this game would have swung a lot quicker. However, playing it the way he did was the only thing that kind of dragged him out of this hole. So it's the versatility of the deck which is really being highlighted at the minute. How versatile it is to be able to push home the advantage, but also claw your way back. Playing another I don't get bet against my family. Having seen it already, he obviously knows that there is a character there here that he can play out. We can see a Pycelle and a Tickler, and I'm imagining he'll go for the Tickler for that military icon. Yeah, absolutely. And then obviously we know that he does have the Hound in his hand, so Rebecca's not going to be able to get through military challenge because he will drop the Hound in and defend with the Hound, preventing any kind of stealth that Rebecca might have, or even just preventing Growwind. So I think we're really on a tipping point here, and it's just a slow crawl back to the finish line, unless Rebecca can really get some more cards, maybe accounting coppers, really set herself up for the next couple of turns. If she can delay Ben enough, might be able to pull it back. But you would think this turn would be the turn to play that counting coppers, and the fact that she's played noble cause instead maybe means that she doesn't have it. We can only wait and see. Ben dropping in that hound, obviously. Doing that 2-claim military challenge with 6 strength, which Rebecca, unfortunately, with only Greywind on the board, can't do a huge amount about. So my assumption would be that she's going to maybe lose a Bran dupe and probably Arya. That stealth is on a power icon is quite key, but with the hound and Ben's hound, if she can't discard it, is going to cause her all sorts of problems. And he's obviously still got quite a few cards in his hand, so she doesn't know what other tricks he might have. If she doesn't defend it, he's got that 2 gold there, he might have another put to the sword. So she's obviously thinking that if I don't defend this, am I going to leave myself extremely exposed to put to the sword? So obviously defending with Greywind, just to make sure she doesn't end up vulnerable. Ben with no responses. The hound obviously returns the hand, and Rebecca killing the Bran dupe and trying to debate what else she kills. Killing Arya. Poor Arya. She's in the dead pile now. That's 2 of her gone, along with whatever her dupe was, the hidden dupe underneath was. And Ben just thinking about what he wants to do next. Obviously dropping in the hound for the military challenge, so not entirely sure. The tickler, I suppose he's now using it in a intrigue challenge to push through that intrigue past Caitlyn, because he doesn't have that strength reduction. But yeah, probably could have used. I suppose he wants to use Cersei for the power challenge with the increased strength so that he can get that 3rd challenge through. So that's probably the right call. This man, he's assured himself that he's won a 2-claim intrigue and been able to unopposed, but with no cards from Rebecca hand. She doesn't really care. And then doing that power challenge, unopposed, getting claim, 2-claim, and getting the Lords of the Crossing. So what we've seen here is we've seen Ben really tipping his way back to 8 power and pulling Rebecca back down so that she's only got 7. Rebecca doing it unopposed intrigue. I think she's probably really hoping just to get rid of that hound from his hand, but Ben's been able to draw enough off Lannister support that his hand's padded enough that the hound is protected. She's doing a power challenge with Bran, and it's just been defended by the Lannister port merchant. So what we've seen is kind of Rebecca struggling to just maintain herself at that 9 power, and Ben kind of slowly clawing his way back. I think in a couple more turns, if Ben maybe has some more high flame pots, we'll really start to see the impact of what's happening here. Oh, Ben playing counting coppers, kind of filling up his hand even more, and Rebecca playing Wardens of the North. This is a difficult time to play it. Obviously, what the situation she's in is getting down to what have I got left, and playing it out at this point when you don't have a huge number of start cards out can be difficult. But I suppose what this will mean is that she can catapult in Catelyn to a challenge if she wants to stop Ben's shenanigans, or she can put Greywind into a non-military challenge as well. So still some flexibility there, but doing so would allow place herself kind of quite vulnerable to different lines of attack. Ben obviously drawing up a lot with the counting coppers, so kind of really got a point where he's gone, okay, I'm starting to pull ahead, I'm starting to kind of get some impact on the board. But the impact on the board does keep kind of disappearing because he's playing those events. So let's see if he can keep putting those tricks. I suppose that counting coppers is going to allow him to keep having those tricks in his hands moving forwards to be able to play them. And what Rebecca has managed to do is play the Kennel Master and play a little Direwolf Wolf Pup. So not only has she got that Wardens of the North, she's also got that Kennel Master potential trigger going for her. And Ben just playing out another dupe on Cersei, still not having seen another Tywin in its hand that we can see, or actually have seen another mountain to be able to play out, or to get some of that impactful military icons. But playing a couple of reductions with his in-house reducer and his little chud, and getting Tywin out. And that is the turning point of this game. He's now got Tywin out on the board. He's got that big impactful military icon permanently there without relying on the Hound jumping in and out. And I think this is what will probably kind of force through to the end of the game. Rebecca has kind of recovered quite well, seems to be drawing kind of quite a large number of characters, probably running quite a high character count in her deck to be able to keep drawing the kind of impactful cards that she needs, but without a way to kind of easily get rid of Tywin. I think she's in a dangerous position now. Ben obviously using that chud because if he doesn't, there's always the potential that Greywind will eat it, which I suppose seems unlikely because Rebecca is in a situation where she doesn't have kind of enough other military icons that she'd get through a military challenge herself. So Ben has now got some of that renown going, and we'll kind of have to see how we go. Rebecca won dominance last turn, so she's now on 10 power to Ben's 7. I suppose what she's hoping is that she can just claw back 5 power as quickly as possible and maybe close out the game before Ben can push through. She is eating Ben's chud with Greywind, her thinking obviously being that if she can get through enough military challenges that she might be able to kill off the brothel madam, which is probably choking her a little bit with the plot cards she's got, but obviously not being able to, having no hand, she's not got a huge amount to play out. Doing a power challenge with Bran. Ben's obviously sat there thinking, no, I want my 3 characters, I want to be able to do all 3 challenges for Lords of the Crossing to get that extra power back at you, but don't really want to let it go unopposed. So debating what he wants to do, whether he's going to play out another trick. So going to play a Hear Me Roar to try and defend the power challenge. Rebecca thinking about playing Hear Me Roar to put out the Hound for 1 instead of 4. Play the Hound, return it to hand. Very nice use of that Hear Me Roar. And play we're going to see maybe a bit more with Tower of the Hand now released, being able to play out a character like that and then return them to your hand, even if it isn't the Hound. However, that 3 cost I do think moving forward is going to be quite hard as a tempo hit to take, especially in such a kind of tempo heavy deck such as this kind of Lords of the Crossing deck. So Ben just kind of maintaining his own power, preventing Rebecca from closing out the game and ensuring he can still get through his own 3 challenges. Rebecca debating whether she wants to do any more challenges or whether she wants to just hold on to her card so that she can defend against Ben's. Rebecca, having played her in the past, does have a bit of a tendency to kind of go all out. I think we've seen this in her plot choices, playing a lot of high playing plots. It has a tendency to really kind of just go really aggro, but I think what we've seen in this game is a Lannister deck which has managed her aggro and kind of controlled the tempo by just keep clawing back, using those kind of Hear Me Roar tricks and being quite lucky with the I never bet against my families to get those characters on the board when he really needed them and push through challenges. So Rebecca doing a challenge with Caitlin. I suppose what I'm thinking is I'm not going to stop him winning the challenges against me, so I might as well see if he'll kneel out a character as I attack him. As a tactic, it's aggressive and it's really tempting Ben to make a mistake. And Rebecca is really happy because she's managed to get rid of a Hound. That has been what she's trying to pull for quite a while. I suppose what she's got to really hope now is that Ben hasn't been able to draw yet another one, so he might have 2 in his hand. Ben doing his entry challenge with the brothel madam, and drawing a card. I wonder what order he'll go. I would go military next with Tywin, absolutely. Getting the unopposed, getting the renown. Maybe Ben's forgotten the renown. Oh no, claim. Obviously doing it in the correct order, which is nice to see, and then getting the renown. And doing the power challenges firstly. Rebecca's obviously going to defend it, but Ben is still going to get the claim, and he's going to get his Lord of the Crossing. So Rebecca being pulled back down to 11 power, and Ben with a very messy power stack on his house card with 10 power. So kind of getting there slightly more even. Rebecca now up to 12 because she won dominance, and if she can get 3 power in this next turn with a high claim plot, she might be able to pull out this game. It's just whether Ben can fend that off, because he's obviously got Tywin. So I think a lot will come down to who can go first in this next turn. Whether Rebecca can rush to the finish line in this next turn. I wouldn't surprise me if she maybe played sneak attack to ensure she went first, and then be able to get that 2 claim power challenge off. But yeah, we've seen sneak attack versus wins, so they're both going 2 claim. They're both hoping to kind of pull to the finish line now. I suppose the difficulty with trying to pull your way to the finish line now, if she can't get unopposed, she can only get kind of a 2 power claim, because she can only do that single challenge. Means that she might find herself stalling at 14 power. If she's not careful, if she can't get some sort of renowned on the board. Getting Hodor down, who obviously can attack now because of Bran, but still not contributing his strength to dominance. It'll be interesting to see kind of how this turn plays out. Ben, not having seen Hodor yet, just wanted to double check what he did, what all his text meant, but doesn't mean a whole lot with Bran on the table. So Ben counting out his economy on a Winds of Winter turn, getting 3 gold from Rose Roads and 2 gold from Tywin. Having that much gold on that turn is relatively incredible. And that's one of the things about Lannister. Yes, you need a couple of high gold plots to be able to get your cards out, but once you've got that Tywin out and you've got some economy locations, you can play cards for their effect and for their claim rather than just their gold, which is so nice, so much more flexible. Ben playing out quite a lot of gold there. Who are we going to see? Oh, we're going to see Jaime Lannister, who was discarded earlier from Rebecca, a bit confused, thought she killed him, but he was only discarded from that march to the wall. So Ben obviously being able to play him out again, explaining to her that the dupe obviously went to the discard pile and then the march to the wall, put the other one in the discard pile. Quite lucky there that he's seen Jaime, which because he's on 11 power, if he can get 2 claim and renown on Tywin and Jaime, he can win. So that means he just has to win a military challenge with Jaime, and then maybe a power challenge with Tywin, and he can close out the game if he can get to that point and Rebecca doesn't steal 2 power from him. So he needs to be able to prevent Rebecca stealing 2 power from him and be able to get it back. Rebecca trying to figure out the board state, seeing if there's some way she can get 3 power, but personally I just can't see it without any stealth to be able to get past Tywin. If she could get past Tywin, if she had 2 stealth characters, get past Tywin and Cersei, she might be able to then get the unopposed, but unfortunately I think she's at a point where she's now realising there's not a huge amount she can do. The best line of play probably here is maybe to try and stall out and try and prevent Ben from swinging back, but I also don't think she's necessarily got the strength to be able to contend with both Tywin and Jaime this turn against a potential 2 claim for each. My guess would be that Rebecca will swing with everything she's got to try and kneel out enough of Ben's board hopefully he'll make a mistake and he'll have enough of his board that he can't swing back with his 2 claim too much, but we'll have to see kind of what happens. I think this is the point in the game where you've really got to consider carefully what you're going to do. Rebecca going for a power challenge, realising she can't stick Greywind in as she tries to stick everyone in unless she wants to use the Kennel Master, and she's deciding whether she wants to use that trigger now or not. She's just going all out, using absolutely everything to do that power challenge to win that 2 power, and they're just trying to figure out how much strength that's for. I almost would have liked to see Caitlin left standing with Greywind, so that she could potentially use Caitlin and throw Greywind into the challenge using the Kennel Master to defend the power challenge that Ben will inevitably throw back at her. However, that for 8 power won't contend with Tywin when you've got 4 gold left on your house card. Rebecca's claiming that 2 power, hoping that she's pulled enough power off Ben to be able to do the slow down, but now he's going to get 3 unopposed challenges, and those 3 unopposed challenges are going to let him close out the game. Quite nice to see that despite that, they're still remembering their triggers, still remembering their Lannister port to play it out. And I think this is doing that military challenge, remembering its 2 claim, hopefully, not just killing the Chud. Yeah, remembering its 2 claim and killing off the Kennel Master, and then going to swing for power with Tywin. Tywin's then going to get unopposed, Tywin's going to get renowned, he's going to get the 2 power from the claim, and he's going to get Lords of the Crossing, leaving Ben at a very comfortable 18 power. I don't think there's a huge amount that Rebecca could have done differently. She could have prevented the unopposed, maybe just gone for a Chud power challenge to try and force Ben to kneel a little bit of his board, just use that 2 claim as kind of a feint, try and get him to kneel something. If he'd let it go unopposed, get the 2 power back. However, I don't think there's anything overly wrong. I think at that point in the game with Tywin and a dupe out, he'd just drawn too many of his cards late game for her to really be able to pull it back. I think as an aggro deck, she did really well applying that pressure early on, but Ben just kept seeing the cards he really needed to see. So guys, that's the end of our first video. As I say, there are 2 more in this series, and these are casual games. So please comment below with any advice for the players, or any comments about the audio, or any feedback for me. But keep them friendly, these are casual games. So I hope to see you again soon, guys. Bye.